What's going on, everyone? Welcome into the FantasyPros Dynasty Football Podcast presented by Reality Sports Online. My name is Kyle Yates, and I am your host, and I am joined, as always, by Ray Garvin. Ray, you're feeling a little under the weather, man. You going to be okay? You going to make it through this episode?
Dude, dad life, man. These kids, I'm telling you, daycare, they just bring home whatever from daycare and have no problem spreading it to the adults in the house. So, you might have to carry me, Yates. This might be that Jordan Pippen moment, but I got complete confidence and faith in you, brother. Let's go. Carry me home.
All right, well, we got a ton that we have to get through, so we are going to just get right into it. Of course, you can find Ray on Twitter at RayGQ, that's QUE, and I can be found on Twitter also at KyleYNFL. We've got some news items that have happened over the past couple weeks, or the past week, since we recorded on Monday, and then we have a Dynasty startup mock draft that we are going to get to later on in this episode, so stay tuned for that. But first, we are giving away a signed Justin Herbert full-size Chargers helmet courtesy of our friends at pristineauction.com. Entering the contest is super easy. Just complete these simple steps. Head to Apple Podcasts or CastBox and leave an honest review. And fill out the short form at fantasypros.com/dynasty contest and submit a screenshot of your review to be entered. Head over to fantasypros.com/dynasty contest for more information. All right, Ray, we have got a ton of news items that we just have to fly through. This is all brought to us by our friends that are working over at the news desk here at Fantasy Pros. They're doing a phenomenal job. Download the Fantasy News app by going to Google Play Store or Apple App Store to make sure you never miss important information for your fantasy team. All right, Kenny Gallaudet hit the open market, was not franchise tagged by the Detroit Lions. Hunter Henry hit the open market. He is now a free agent. Allen Robinson was franchise tagged by the Chicago Bears. Chris Godwin was franchise tagged by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And Ray, I'm just going to rip through these at the end. Feel free to chime in on any of them if you want, but just kind of going through logistics here. You just keep making sure everyone stays up to date. Jonnu Smith did not receive the franchise tag. Let's freaking go. Aaron Jones hit the open market as well. And then we get past all of this. The Giants will keep featuring Evan Ingram in 2021 per Joe Judge. Why, though? I don't understand that one. Melvin Gordon had his DUI charges dismissed. Now, the NFL may still take action on this one, but that remains to be seen. So that's a big news for Melvin Gordon. Fantasy managers that are holding on to him, and because he was facing a 3-game at minimum suspension. So the NFL may still take action, like I said, but that remains to be seen. Joe Mixon is now healthy, according to Zach Taylor. So heading into next season, Joe Mixon should be ready to receive his full workload. I'm buying Joe Mixon everywhere that I can in Dynasty. Emmanuel Sanders was released by the New Orleans Saints as they attempt to get underneath that cap, that salary cap. They've still got a long way to go, but Emmanuel Sanders now looking for a new home. John Brown was also released by the Buffalo Bills. He was carrying a significant cap hit this season for 2021, so he is released, and now I expect that they'll look to the draft or potentially just move forward next season with Stephon Diggs, Gabriel Davis, and Cole Beasley there. John Brown, I think he's kind of on the outs as far as Dynasty is concerned. We'll see where he lands, though. Teams are reportedly reaching out to the Patriots about wide receiver N'Keal Harry. Again, why, though? Don't understand it, but apparently he's getting interest as a trade target here. Just a few more things. Gus Edwards received a second-round tender from the Ravens, so he is going to be a huge factor. That's a pretty significant price tag or at least a tender there for Gus Edwards there for a running back. Speaks to what they think of him heading into next season. Jaguars GM Trent Baalke is looking to add to his running back core this offseason. So, Ray, I will make you answer this one. Best guess, James Robinson will be a RB what in 2021? RB1, RB2, RB3, RB4?
Locked and loaded RB1, man. Locked and loaded.
So you're not reacting too much to this. You think this was expected? No. They're just going to bring in a complimentary piece and move forward with James Robinson.
They were never going to roll into 2021 with Dare Ogunbowale, Raquel Armstead, or Divine Zigbo. James Robinson, Urban Meyer, Ezekiel Elliott, he's going to be the feature guy. They need a backup, but they're not rolling with Chris Thompson and company. They just need a complimentary piece.
All right, and then Mark Ingram signed a 1-year deal with the Houston Texans. Again, why though? I don't understand this signing whatsoever. David Johnson and Mark Ingram, running back mates there in Houston. I have no idea what Houston's doing. Okay, guys, we are going to do a 1 QB Dynasty startup mock draft. And, of course, we are doing this over. Oh, go ahead. Go.
I needed to give some reaction to that.
Oh,
great
yes,
news
yes,
you
please,
dropped.
please,
Oh,
please.
gosh.
Yes, I'm sorry. Oh, my word.
I think the big takeaway is, you know, for Dino leagues, you sell the news, you buy the rumor, sell the news, and right now this gives you an incredible opportunity either to acquire some of these players or trade some of them, you know, off speculation of where they may land. But when you're talking Gallaudet, when you're talking Hunter Henry, Aaron Jones, there's a lot of talent on the free agent market. I like Gus Bus. I like Gus Edwards. I think he's going to be more involved in that offense than a lot of people think, which may, you know, hamper some of those J.K. Dobbins expectations. But man, this is what makes Dino League so fun. Just the shifting of players and, you know, the value increases or decreases depending on landing spot with some of these players.
Absolutely. I mean, we're gonna be right back here next week, assuming that Ray can talk at that point next week. We're gonna be right back here, making sure that you're staying up to date with all the free agent fallout and everything like that, and given, of course, the dynasty aspect of all that. So, all right, we good with the news? We good to move on?
Oh yeah, yep. We're good.
All right. Perfect. All right, so guys, we are doing, like I said, a Dynasty Startup mock draft. You can do your own Dynasty mock drafts to get ready for rookie draft season by going to fantasypros.com/simulator, select the Start a Mock Draft button, and you can set up and complete a Dynasty rookie draft in just minutes. And you can even do a mock draft up to 6 rounds. Get this 4-round rookie draft nonsense out of here. Give me a mock draft with 6 rounds of rookies. They're a ton of fun. They're easy. They're free. And they're found at fantasypros.com/simulator. All right, Ray. We have got the Dynasty mock draft. Like I said, this is a 1 QB format. So I'm just going to run through the positions and how we got this set up. Now, we are only doing... how many total picks? I think we're doing 20 total picks here.
Yeah.
Now, typically we are a proponent of, 25 plus, right?
Yes.
26 is kind of the sweet spot, and then you can add more in taxi squads and stuff like that. If we did a 26-round mock draft here, no one would listen to it. Like, I guarantee no one would listen to it because it would be a 2-hour-long podcast, and Ray apparently can't hang that long. So we're doing the 20 rounds here. We got the 1 QB, 3 running backs, 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, and then 2 flex spots, and then we've got 10 bench spots, okay? So this is really interesting, Ray. This is my first, startup mock of the season. I haven't done one yet. I haven't even done, a real mock, real startup draft this offseason at all, so this is just going to be a ton of fun. I don't know the values on these players at all, so I'm just going to kind of roll in here, and we're going to see what happens, all right? You ready to go?
I'm pretty nervous, man. I'm not going to lie, because you just never know how the board is going to fall, and we got to do this quick, so you don't have hours to think about these picks. So I'm just gonna keep it real, Yates. I'm coming out here to kick your butt, man. I'm coming to wreck it. Let's go.
All right. Well, we'll put it to the people when we're done. We'll put up the rosters side by side and see who comes out on top. All right. So let's see, Ray. It looks like you got the number 2 overall pick there. I got the 111. So I hate drafting at the turn. It's the freaking worst. So mock draft is starting in 5 seconds. We're gonna see who goes number 1 overall. Again, this is a 1 QB format. So not surprising, Christian McCaffrey goes off the board there at number 1 overall. You're sitting there at 102, though, Ray.
Yeah.
You got some interesting choices here. I mean, Jonathan Taylor, are we going there, or are we going to stick with the talent here of Saquon Barkley? Where are we going?
We got Saquon and JT. Those are my 2 choices. But I'm going to go with the healthy young bull, the young stud behind that Indianapolis Colts O-line. I do like Carson Wentz at quarterback, and I believe in the Colts organization. Jonathan Taylor, I think, is poised for a phenomenal season in Indy, so I will gladly take him here at the 102.
Now, we saw last season, of course, that Nyheim Hines factored in Jordan Wilkins when he was healthy. There was still that, at least in the middle part of the season, JT did take over as we got towards the end there. But any concern whatsoever there? Because that 102, if you're taking him above some of these other guys like Kamara, Dalvin Cook, Saquon Barkley, you apparently don't have any concerns with that whatsoever, correct?
No concerns. And Saquon would have been the choice, had I not had so much conviction in Jonathan Taylor. But no concerns. I think it's a hell of a pick, man.
All right, I am up at the 111. I've got, I typically go running back heavy here at the start. So I'm looking at some of these guys on the board: Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry, DeAndre Swift, Cam Akers. J.K. Dobbins, you got Ezekiel Elliott later on there. I'm just going to take the guy that is a proven stud, and that's Nick Chubb. I am going to stick to the top of the board here. I'm going to draft Nick Chubb here to start off my roster. Now, of course, in a half PPR, it doesn't exactly provide, the type of boost that you want with some of these other running backs. This is the same thing with Derrick Henry, but for what Nick Chubb brings me in such a run-heavy offense that I believe is just only going to get better next season as they enter into year 2 of this system, I'm happy to get Nick Chubb here at the back end of the first.
Yeah, that's a good pick. I think that's a heck of a pick at the 111 spot, and you're back up, right? So you got the 111 and then the 202, so you still got some nice backs and receivers on the board for you.
Yeah, so we saw Justin Jefferson go inside the first round there, and then Derrick Henry at the 201. It would have been really cool to be able to start my draft with Nick Chubb and Derrick Henry, but I'm looking at the board here now, and I'm going to go a little bit further down, and I'm going to take a chance here. I'm going to roll the dice here a little bit and guess that Aaron Jones ends up in a really, really nice spot for fantasy football here in free agency. So Aaron Jones, of course, proven receiver. We know how efficient he is and talented in that role. And so I think that whatever team, we talked about this on a previous episode, whatever team brings him in is going to pay significant money, and then 2, utilize that investment. So whether it is in Miami, whether it's in another location that, of course, we're going to find out here pretty soon, I'm going to roll the dice here and cross my fingers and hope that he ends up in a dynamic offense that is going to absolutely feature him. So, all right, you're up here at the 211. We saw guys like Patrick Mahomes, George Kittle, J.K. Dobbins, Stephon Diggs, Zeke, Eckler, and Gibson go off before you. Where are you going here at the 211?
Now, this is Dynasty, right? So I'm building my team for now and for the future, correct?
Correct.
Well, I got Jonathan Taylor, and there's 2 stud, second-year running backs on the board, DeAndre Swift and Cam Akers. But I'm going to go with the player who got an upgrade at the quarterback position. I believe in Cam Akers' talent. And I got another pick coming up here in a second. So I'm going to go Cam Akers here at the 211, start my running back core with Jonathan Taylor and Cam Akers. I really like to build my dynasty core with stud running backs, and knowing the depth of the wide receiver position, I feel like I'll be able to get some really good value later on at wide receiver. And the cool thing about this mock and where we're slotted is we both get kind of like back-to-back picks, right? I'm at the 101, you were at the 111 spot. So I knew I was going to have a chance to go ahead and solidify my running back core here with my first 3 picks. And Yates, I am going to dive. I'm going to stick true to my personal rankings, my board, and I'm going to dive into the rookie pool and land my running back 1 in the 2021 class right here at the 302. You know where I'm going, don't you? You? You know where I'm going.
Let's talk to him about Najee.
I'm going Najee Harris, the 6'2", 230-pound stud out of Alabama. And, my running back core is good. I can focus on other positions right now. 1 quarterback league. I'm not worried about the QB right now. Harris, JT, and Akers. That's how we're rolling.
As a stud start, man. You're really young at running back, but that's kind of what you want, right? With these guys, you know what their role is for the next 3 to 4 years, right? And Najee, I think, is kind of landing spot proof, right? Like, we know whatever team is going to select him within the first 32 picks, which I truly do believe that's going to be the case, that we see him go in the first round, is going to utilize him heavily. So, all right, we saw guys like Miles Sanders go off the board. Calvin Ridley, I was kind of eyeing Calvin Ridley there, but he went at the 306. CEH, Allen Robinson, all the way at the 308. I feel like that's really good value. Terry McLaurin, DJ Moore, I'm up here now. I've got 13 seconds on the clock at the 311. And I talked about, I'm going to take Joe Mixon, man. Still only 24 years old. Everyone seems to be completely writing off Joe Mixon, and I don't really understand why. Just because he was out for a part of this season, and I get that burned you a little bit here, but CMC missed a lot of time this past year, and everyone seems willing to just complete. I mean, he went 101 here, right? So Joe Mixon, when he is healthy, in this offense, he's getting an insane workload. They're going to make investments in the offensive line this offseason, potentially drafting a guy like Penny Sewell or Rashawn Slater all the way up at number 5 overall. I could see them dipping in free agency to the offensive line class and just really trying to shore this up. So I'm a big fan of Mixon, and to get him as my RB3 here at the 311 is fantastic. I am going to go wide receiver here, though, Actually, let me take a look at who's on the board at tight end.
Yeah,
Mark
yeah.
Andrews.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm gonna take Chris Godwin here, sitting at the top of the board, and even with Mike Evans, even with Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski, all the receiving weapons that they're supposedly going to have again next year, I think that regardless, Chris Godwin is still a very, very consistent wide receiver. So that's something that I really, really value is consistency in my wide receivers for fantasy football, and Godwin provides that. He might not have the overall ceiling that he did back with Jameson when it was just Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, but yet still providing a very, very safe floor week in and week out. So to get him in the fourth round here as my wide receiver 1 for my roster, I feel like that's good value.
Yeah, I thought that was a good pick for you. I was eyeing Chris Godwin. I knew he wasn't going to come to me here at the 411. So I do want to dip my toe in the wide receiver pool. And honestly, I wish this was a real Dino League because I really, really love the way this draft is unfolding. And, no trades or anything like that. But right here, we talked about Joe Mixon's situation. I want T. Higgins. I want Joe Burrow's number 1 wide receiver. He's a stud young wide receiver. And right now, I'm loving my core. And before T. Higgins went off of the board, we did see some more rookies. We saw Jamar Chase come off of the board, Kyle Pitts, Travis Etienne. But, I've got a young squad right now, and my running back core is set for the next couple of years. And, Yates, one of the reasons why, especially in single quarterback leagues, I want to start running back is the pool looks really gross right now. I mean, it's
right.
Carson and Gordon and Drake and Damian Harris, and we're only in the 5th round. So, it gives you so much more flexibility whenever you lock up that core. And the wide receivers are so deep, incredibly deep right now. And, man, this is a tough decision for me because I'm looking at some of the tight ends, and there's one that I'm really into, but, I just can't pass up the value of this young stud wide receiver, Brandon Ayuk. I don't think he's talked about enough as far as like the top 5 rookie wide receivers from last season. But Ayuk in San Francisco, hopefully with the quarterback upgrade soon. I love Ayuk here to start my wide receiver core, Higgins and Ayuk.
Yeah, I mean, again, you're going super young here, but I still think that these are guys that can contribute in a big way. Like T. Higgins, we already saw it. Brandon Ayuk, when he's healthy and on the field. And what happens if San Francisco does get a quarterback upgrade? Then at that point, Ayuk just continues to see his value increase. Cortland Sutton at the 503 was really interesting. I was kind of eyeing him. Deontay Johnson, Cooper Kupp, Javonte Williams. I was kind of hoping that he would fall to the 511. I would have a tough decision there, but he didn't. He went at the 506. Guys like Kareem Hunt, Melvin Gordon, Kenyon Drake. So you talked about it. That running back group looks pretty gross right now, and it dried up really quickly. I am looking at the wide receiver room again. I'm going to take... Who am I going to take? I'm going to take Robert Woods. This is my guy that I had last year. I was hyping up last year in the redraft, like leading up into the fantasy football season. I was telling everyone about Robert Woods, and now you talk about Matthew Stafford as the starting quarterback there. I think Woods is in line for a big, big season. And not only just next year, but also for years to come, right? Like he's still relatively young for the wide receiver position, shows no signs of slowing down anytime soon. So Woods here at the 511, now up to pair with Chris Godwin and my studs that I've got at running back. I feel like that's a pretty solid start. Now, coming back here at the 602, I'm looking at the running back position, Ronald Jones, Chris Carson. I mean, Damian Harris all the way up here. No, thank you. A.J. Dillon is intriguing. Now that he is the presumed, locked and loaded starter there in Green Bay. I'm looking at the tight ends. 10, I think I can wait.
9, 8,
I know,
the
dude.
Pressure 7, the pressure 6. Where you going, Yates?
I did it, man.
Okay.
All right, OBJ.
All right.
Let's talk about OBJ for a second, really quick before we get to your pick. I think the hate has gone too far on OBJ. Now, I get it that the injury history, the inconsistencies, I get it. But yet the talent level for him to be my wide receiver 3 in Dynasty, to get him in the 6th round, I feel like that's too much to pass up. Now, I just got in an actual Dynasty league, I made a trade recently where I flipped second round picks, moved back in the second round, and then I flipped Tyler Boyd for OBJ. And I feel like that was a good trade because I wanted to get the talent into the building, quote unquote, right? And be able to bring in OBJ. And let's just assume that Baker lets him start to become a part of the system, then that's something where you just operate within the system. I think OBJ is in line for a big season next year if he can stay healthy. Now, you're up at the 6'11". I talked a lot. Where are you going?
Yeah, this is a player that I considered 2 rounds ago, so I'm going to dip my toe into the tight end pool and take TJ Hawkinson here at the 6'11 spot. And the reason, and the thing says I did a reach. There was a 77% chance Hawkinson would be available at my next pick. I picked right here 2 spots later, and we saw something interesting happen. We saw Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, and Lamar Jackson all go in the 6th round. And while in single quarterback leagues, I don't value the quarterback as highly as I do in Superflex, I do think there is a little bit of an advantage of getting some of these dual threat Konami code quarterbacks here. And, Deshaun Watson for me is going to be the pick. It was between him or Dak Prescott. And yes, Dak is locked up, but Watson is just incredible. And I think wherever he goes outside of Houston and the horrid job that they've done surrounding him with talent last year, I think Watson is still an absolute star. He's going to give you 400 or 500 yards on the ground every year, be one of the top passers in the league. So Deshaun Watson, and he's still relatively young, so it fits my overall team philosophy. Give me Deshaun Watson here after all those quarterbacks went off the board.
Any concern in a dynasty league to take him here at the 702 that he might, with reports, sit out this season? If he did, worst case scenario, he's going to be 27 years old, 26 years old in the next season. I'm not concerned. Give me the talent of Deshaun Watson. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so the guy that I wanted Dak. I'm not going to lie. I wanted Dak Prescott. He went 3 picks after you. So he went at the 705. Will Fuller, Jalen Reagor after you, Chris Carson, Adam Thielen, Bateman at the 708. Rashad Bateman, of course, the incoming rookie. I'm at the 711 here, and I've evened out my running backs. I've evened out my wide receivers. I'm going to look here at the available quarterbacks. Russell Wilson, I think I can wait on him, right? I can get him here at my next pick. I am looking at some of these incoming running backs, and I don't like any of them. Nope. I'm looking at wide receiver here, and I am panicking, dude. I'm going to take Michael Pittman Jr. because I had 4 seconds left on the freaking clock. Okay. Now, I was scanning that list, and I was like, crap. Like, I didn't know, and saw Pittman's name there. I am actually happy that I selected Pittman here. Now, value-wise, I think I could wait a little bit, maybe even roll the dice here with another round and try to get him in the 9th round. But with the other wide receivers that were on the board, he was kind of up there in overall rankings and ADP. So Pittman here, in line for a big season, I think. I'm a big fan. And I think that he can provide that a little bit of insurance for me with OBJ to say that if OBJ doesn't work out, well, I have Pittman waiting in the wings to step in as that wide receiver 4 flex spot, be able to step in and provide some solid play next year. I really like his talent. And now you talk about Carson Wentz as the quarterback there, the upgrade that can be. I really like that. Okay, I am going to go here at the 802. I'm going to pull the trigger on my quarterback. And now this is not just because I'm a Bears fan and there's a possibility that Russell Wilson is sitting here in Chicago, by next week potentially. No, regardless, if Russell Wilson is still in Seattle next year, he's still going to be very, very productive. To get him as my QB1, now I do want to invest again pretty soon in another QB2. A solid QB2 that can step in if Russ does start to see some of the inconsistencies that he had towards the end of last season. But at the 802, to get him as my QB1, I feel fine with that. I really like that value with him. So now we saw your guy, Rondale Moore, go off the board at the 804. I was really interested to see if you were going to try to snag him. Terrace Marshall, another rookie wide receiver, goes off the board. 811 here. Where are you going?
Yeah, hey, listen, my team is young. It's explosive. I like what we're building over here on Team GQ. And I'm going to take a player that I believe is going to be a first-round pick in the NFL draft. He's got the speed, the talent to be an absolute game changer. And I'm going to take Jalen Waddle, the wide receiver out of Alabama. He's a Tier 1 wide receiver for me in the class. So him, Devonta Smith, Rondale Moore, my Tier 1 wide receiver. So to get him here at the 811 to add him to a pretty solid squad, I feel good about my wide receiver core. And, as I'm looking at this play out, we didn't talk about Devonta Smith. He went a couple of rounds ago. Noah Fant just comes off the board here at the 1 pick before me. I probably could have waited on Hawkinson. Like I probably, and that's a mistake. Like as I made the pick, I said, you know what? I was doing this positional, like, let me fill out my roster thing instead of talent, and I probably should have waited on that. But I still feel good, and I want a piece of the Dallas Cowboys offense. And I know a lot of people just disregard Michael Gallup, but Gallup is pretty damn good. He's talented, and if Dallas does not re-sign him, I believe he's got a chance to be a very, very high-priority free agent here after this season. So I'm going to go ahead and take a piece of that Cowboys offense and draft Michael Gallup right here at the 902.
People forget that Michael Gallup was actually like a contributor, right? When Dak Prescott was healthy towards the start of the season there. Now he had one massive game that really helped that, but yet at the same time was still a solid flex play, right? He brings you that upside where all it takes is one deep shot downfield for him to make a difference. So yeah, I like that pick there, man. All right, so I am looking now at running back because it's about to get pretty gross here. So if it isn't already, right? Here's how gross it is, folks. I'm legitimately thinking about pulling the trigger on Leonard Fournette at the 9-11. My roster so far, I've got Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones, Joe Mixon. So at this point, whoever I draft here is not going to need to be a starter on my roster, but we talked about on the free agency episode that what happens if Leonard Fournette does sign with, a cheap deal. He signs with someone like Pittsburgh, right? Pittsburgh needs a running back this offseason, and they can bring in Fournette for a 1 year, $4 million, $5 million deal, whatever. At that point, he's still a very, very serviceable starter for next season. If nothing else, he'll be a rotational part of a backfield, can still provide me solid depth. So going to pull the trigger here with Leonard Fournette at the 9-11. We got Curtis Samuel going at the 10:01, and now let's take a look here at my options at tight end. Yeah, I'm not messing around, dude. You want to call out this pick of who I'm taking here at the 10:02 at tight end?
Are you going Jonnu?
I'm going Jonnu, man.
I know
I'm going Jonnu. It's another one of those like roll the dice picks with Aaron Jones that I mentioned earlier. Like with choosing Jonnu here, there's a potential that he was there at my next pick, for sure. But yet I didn't want to lose out on that possibility. And again, we've talked about any of the destinations that bring in, the teams that bring in Jonnu, whoever it may be, this offseason in free agency is going to have a clear plan of how to use him. They're going to pay him a lot of money, and I think that he's going to be utilized to the best of his abilities. So if that ends up being in New York, the Jets that I've talked about, that fit and what that could mean, or if it's in New England, or if it's in Jacksonville and they get the quarterback upgrade with Trevor Lawrence, whatever, I think that he's going to be a really, really solid fantasy option. He's got tight end one for me. He's
got the talent, man. So don't hate it, and you needed a tight end. Here I am at the 1102 spot, and listen, this is a player that if what plays out in Chicago, if we think that plays out with Russell Wilson, wheels up for Darnell Mooney. He fits my overall draft scheme of what I'm trying to do, staying young. I'm a big believer in Mooney's talent. He's got that speed. Allen Robinson to be back, so he doesn't have to be the number one wide receiver. But right here in the 10th round to get Darnell Mooney as my first bench spot, I really like that pick. And now we're sitting here, and this is why you got to start running back early, because it is not good. It is not pretty. And this is part of I caution you all with the productive struggle approach where you're taking a bunch of young guys. I'm looking at these running backs now, and if I go with a rookie running back, I know I'm reaching. So that at some point all the young rookie talent kind of runs out. So I'm going to take some insurance for Deshaun Watson, and I want to get a young stud quarterback that provides dual threat, the Konami code ability that can get me some rushing yards on the ground and be dynamic through the air. And I'm going to take Justin Fields here at the 1102 spot.
Oh, that was not where I thought you were going.
I'm going Justin Fields. Now Trevor Lawrence went off the board a round before. I've locked up my quarterbacks. I feel good. Won't touch one probably to the very last pick.
I thought for sure you were going with Jalen Hurts there, who was sitting there at the top of the recommended rankings. But no, I love the pick of Justin Fields. Like with Fields, wherever he gets drafted, we know that he's going to have 2 years minimum to prove himself in the NFL. Jalen Hurts, the rope might not be that long, right?
Yep.
Like what happens if he does struggle this year? Well, then they're going to be drafting another quarterback next season. So no, totally love that pick there. Okay, so I'm up at the 11-11. And I'm looking at running back here. and because I do want to just continue to build out that depth. And I'm looking at guys like Nyheim Hines. No, not really. Alexander Mattison, that's more of a pick if you have Dalvin Cook on your roster. J.D. McKissick is Gus Edwards. You know what? I'm going to roll the dice here with Gus Edwards.
Oh, nice. I like it.
We just finished talking about Gus Edwards with, his second round tender and everything like that. He's going to have a role in this offense. And again, he's a depth running back for me. I'm not drafting him to be my RB3, RB2 or anything like that. So Gus Edwards, I can leave him there on my bench.
Yep.
I can let him sit. And then if I do see some injuries happen to the top tier guys that I have on my roster, well, then that's okay. I can plug in Gus Edwards and know that he's going to at least get those 7 to 10 carries per game, maybe even more heading into next season if we do see more of a balanced approach there with J.K. Dobbins. So now I'm looking at some of these wide receivers that are on the board. I'm looking at Darius Slayton, Sterling Shepard, Jamison Crowder. Not really. None of those guys are really doing it for me. I mean, I look even further down the list, and it's it's getting gross pretty quick. This is part of the strategy with Dynasty. This is so I'm gonna provide a little bit of insurance here at the tight end position for me with 3 seconds left on the clock. I probably could have waited for this guy, but with Kyle Rudolph leaving Minnesota now, I'm going to pull the trigger on Irv Smith Jr.
I like it. No, I don't think you could have waited. I think that was a good pick. I don't think he was going to make it back to you. I don't.
Yeah, so I mean, if Jonnu doesn't sign in a offense that is conducive for fantasy football or whatever, right, like worst case scenario, well, then that's okay because I've got Irv Smith heading into next season who I think is poised for a breakout campaign. So can get him onto my roster. There is a little bit of insurance. Again, it's kind of punting the tight end position, if you will. I didn't take one of the top-tier guys, but the proven guys, but yet I do think that I'm going to throw as many darts as I can at that position, and I think I've got 2 guys that have an excellent chance of hitting a bullseye there. So 12-11 for you. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Bryan Edwards went off the board before you. Who are we looking at?
This is just, it is disgusting out here.
We got 8 rounds to go, man. We still got 8 rounds to go.
I'm reach. Oh my gosh, I can't find him. I'm going young. I'm sticking with the strategy, and I went Tyler Johnson, wide receiver from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Right.
I don't know if Antonio Brown is coming back, but I liked what Johnson was able to show at the end of last season. He's young. He's a bench spot for me. They did tag Chris Godwin, which leads me to believe after this season, one of either Godwin or Evans probably won't be back. And, I want a piece of that offense. I think Tyler Johnson is extremely talented. So get another young wide receiver to add as a depth piece. I like it. And, listen, running back is terrible. It is not good. And I am just going out on pure faith right here that with Chris Carson hitting free agency,
no, come on,
Rashad Penny is going to get a shot. So here at the 1302, I take my 4th running back and the first running back since round 3, and I feel good with Rashad Penny as a bench stash.
How the hell did I just get sniped on Rashad Penny in the 13th round of a Dynasty startup? I'm not even, go back and watch the YouTube clip of this because I'm recording my screen for this. I just added Rashad Penny to my queue. Not even joking. I added him to my queue, was ready to pull the trigger at my next spot if he was still there, and of course you draft him. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go back to the drawing board here. Let's see if we can get in some talent, some young talent here at wide receiver on my roster. KJ Hamler staring me in the face. Darius Slayton. As my what is he? My wide receiver 6 or 7 at this point. I think I'll pull the trigger here on Darius Slayton. Now I'm not super crazy. I'm not the biggest Darius Slayton supporter out there, but back into the 13th round as my depth wide receiver, I know that he's got a role. Some of these other guys, Jameson Crowder, Paris Campbell, Marvin Jones Jr., John Brown, that are T.Y. Hilton, KJ Hamler, that are sitting there at the top of this recommendations here. At that point, man, I'm gonna pull the trigger on the guy who I know is going to be on the field.
Yeah. Good pick. I like it. He would have been one of my guys. I promise you that.
All right, so let's see. 1402 here.
Yep.
Evan Ingram went off the board. Le'Veon Bell, 2 guys that I was not going to be selecting. So looking at the quarterback here, I talked about that I've got Russell Wilson there that I can build around. And then looking at a QB2 here, Oof, I don't know if I want to do that.
You do. Do it. You want to.
No, I don't.
Yes,
no,
you
I don't.
do.
No, I don't. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with a young running back here. Actually, I'm gonna go with a young running back who I think actually has a significant chance of making a contribution in year 2. Now, I was a big fan of his tape coming out of Maryland, heading into year 2 with Pittsburgh. Anthony McFarland. Now, this is a dart throw, right? But at the running back position, I do want to load up with some of these guys. Some of these guys that can hit if everything breaks their way. Now, I mentioned that the scenario of what plays out for Leonard Fournette, this, or this, but Leonard Fournette is going to need a complement piece to be the receiver out of that backfield, which is the change of pace role that Anthony McFarland can fill. Now, if let's say that Pittsburgh doesn't add a running back, then McFarland is the next guy in line. I don't think that they're going to roll with just Benny Snell. I think they want to see what McFarland can do. They drafted him last year. He was going to take a year to sit and learn, and I think that he is poised for a breakout's too strong of a word, but I think he can have a solid year 2. So, all right, Romandre Stevenson went at the 1409, which was someone Tamori and Terry went one pick before you. It would have been interesting to see if you would have considered him here. Where are you going at the 1411?
I wanted him, and I got sniped, so I'll just take my highest-rated rookie wide receiver that's left, and it's Elijah Moore out of Ole Miss. Dynamic slot receiver. He's going to have to be used in the slot at the next level. But at this point, with the team that I'm building, this is the strategy that I chose, so I have to stick with it. Like, this is where we're at. And the running backs are I would be interested to see when we select a running back next. Jalen Hurts went off of the board right after my Elijah Moore pick, which makes me just like, I just wish I would have just waited. With that second quarterback, these are lessons. This is why these things are important to do. Come on over to FantasyPros and get your mock drafts and to kind of prepare you for the rookie drafts and especially Dynasty leagues, right? So I'm sitting here at the 1502, and a player that, I've talked about on the show multiple times that I really, really like. I want to add some depth to my tight end position. He's a younger player for the position, and he's attached to a Hall of Fame quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. Robert Tonyan is my selection here at the 1502.
Yeah, I remember looking at the tight end position 6 or 7 rounds ago and remember seeing his name, and it was like, I figure at some point Ray is going to be pulling the trigger on Robert Tonyan. All right, so I'm up here. We saw Kadarius Toney go before, Kiki QT. I mean, the running backs here, James White, Marlon Mack, no thank you. So looking at potentially adding some youth here at wide receiver, there's no one really jumping off the page except for... do I want to do this here? I'm going to add KJ Hamler, Denver Broncos wide receiver. I was a big fan of his coming out of Penn State. I mean, you're talking about speed. And Denver has been rumored with a lot of these other quarterbacks. I think the quarterback position can only be upgraded. What happens if they get aggressive in the draft and they trade up to the number 2, number 3 spot?
Right.
At that point, it's a quarterback upgrade that KJ Hamler is going to be on the field for with Cortland Sutton. Of course, he's not going to be, a heavily targeted guy, but again, he was kind of raw coming out. So a year to adjust to the NFL level, and I've got him for the long term. So I really like getting KJ Hamler again. We're at the back end of the 15th round, so it's hard to be looking at these guys and criticizing them at this spot of the draft. All right, Jameson, Crowder, Latavius Murray. Murray would have been a good pick there. He went one pick before at the 1601. I'm back on the clock. I'm looking at some of these quarterbacks. Tua Tagovailoa, Carson Wentz, Kirk Cousins, Matt Ryan, Jared Goff. These are all guys that are sitting there.
Yeah.
I'm going to get spicy, man. I'm going to make sure that I at least get my guy. And we've talked about this quarterback extensively here on this podcast already.
Oh, yeah.
I can go back in a couple rounds and I can get one of these veteran quarterbacks that someone's going to, that people are just going to let fall. I can wait. And I can go back and at least get some insurance if Trey Lance does not end up playing this year, which some people are projecting that he's going to have to sit, he's going to have to develop. I really don't think that's going to happen. I think he's going to be like 2 games throughout the 2021 season, and then, whatever team drafts him is going to be like why are we having this guy sit, right? We need to get him on the field. He's talented, supremely talented, can make a big difference. So Russell Wilson and the Trey Lance are my two quarterbacks. It's not exactly a rock solid room, but yet I can double back here in maybe round 20, right? My last pick, and I can grab another quarterback,
100%.
proven veteran.
100%. You can get a veteran. Nobody wants those guys in Dynasty startups. So I think it was good to get your guy there, get your young talent there, and then steal a veteran later. I think that was a smart move because Trey Lance probably would not have made it back to you. So
right.
Here I am at the 16-11. I got back-to-back picks, and, hey, productive struggle. I'm going to go with my highest-rated rookie wide receiver. That's Deomi Brown, the wide receiver out of North Carolina. Back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. I've seen some comparisons to a Will Fuller that can stay healthy for Brown. So, doing dynasty startups now is risky because we don't know where these rookies are going to land. But you turn on the tape. I believe in the talent. I think he's going to be a solid NFL wide receiver. May not be a star, but I like what he brings to the table. And here towards the end of my draft is a bench piece. It's okay. Hopefully in a couple of years he pans out. Now, I really want to get a fifth running back. I really do. But I almost feel like I'm just wasting a pick with any of these guys at this point for my team. I mean, we've got Lynn Bowden Jr., LaMichael Pirine, Damian Williams. I literally feel like that would be wasting a selection. So here, oh boy. I'm going to believe in Matt Stafford, and maybe he can turn this former second-round pick into something in his second season, and I'm going to go Van Jefferson. The Rams are not bringing back, I don't think they're bringing back Josh Reynolds. Gerald Everett, isn't he on the move? So, Van Jefferson's going to have every opportunity to be that third wide receiver on a team that has a better quarterback. So here we go at the 1702 Van Jefferson.
I mean, it's hard to criticize that pick because he's a second-round pick from last season. They clearly have a plan for him. Now, I don't know how exactly that fits. That was even a head-scratching decision for me last season, trying to figure out where exactly he fits. But for you, it doesn't matter at this spot. Like, take the talent, take the draft capital, because that will carry long-term. Okay, so 17-11 here. I would love to add another running back, but some of these guys are just not looking super enticing, man. I mean, the guy who I think I was going to take a shot on Darrynton Evans if he fell to me as that kind of change of pace back with Derrick Henry. I think that Evans could work his way into a role next season, but I'm going to take a shot here on LaMichael Pirine. Let's say that New York just adds a complimentary piece, right, this upcoming offseason, and they move forward with LaMichael Pirine on the roster. Let's say the coaching staff that they have there now actually likes what they see. The likelihood of that happening, probably minimal. I do expect them to add a running back at some point, right? Whether through free agency or the draft, and Pirine will be a backup running back. But to get him at the 17-11, the back end of the 17th round in a dynasty startup, I feel like that's fine. I don't need him to turn into anything. If he does, it's an added benefit. If not, no, okay. I didn't spend significant draft capital to get him, so it doesn't really make much of a difference. Okay, so I'm back at the 1802. We saw N'Keal Harry and Lynn Bowden go at the 1712 and 1801. I'm going to take a shot and take Nelson Aguilar here. Now, Aguilar, I think, obviously very rocky NFL career up to this point. Didn't make it in Philly. Obviously we know just the backstory there and everything that happened, and essentially worked his way out, bust of a pick, but then lands here in Las Vegas this past season and makes a significant impact, right? Like, actually put together a solid season. So I think he's worked his way into some money. I don't know where that's going to be. I don't know what that role is going to look like, but I do think that he's going to find a home here in free agency. And whether it is back in Las Vegas, that's fine. He performed last year. So a depth wide receiver for me, I don't even know what wide receiver he is on my roster at this point. I'll look that up in a second. But at that point, I don't care. He's my super, super depth wide receiver if he turns into something. Again, this is the spot of the draft as we near the end where I just want the dart throws. I want to take the guys that let's see what happens to them. Let's see if they turn into something.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's where we're at. And I don't think Aguilar was a bad pick at all. Right here, I've got a couple of picks left, so I'm going to go with the player who's getting a lot of buzz after the pro day today, but I like his stature. I like his build. He's got a shot to be, a decent slot receiver, maybe a utility guy at the next level in Amari Rogers, the wide receiver out of Clemson. And
I like that pick.
I'm here. Well, I actually have one more pick after this, but I don't believe that this rookie will fall back to me. And I'm taking a page out of your book, Yates. I'm taking a page out of your book because even though I don't have him ranked extremely high, it's hard to ignore the NFL draft buzz around this player, Dwayne Eskridge. If he is a late first,
that's a good pick.
Early second round pick, he's going to get an opportunity to play. He's got, home run hitting ability and speed, and we see, when those players fire at the next level, they can be big time producers in the NFL. And Estridge he's not a player that's going to have to start for me at all with my roster. And with a young team like this, I don't mind him here at my second to last pick. So I'm going to go Dwayne Eskridge.
Yeah, I really like that. He wasn't even on my radar. I hadn't scrolled down far enough to find him. Otherwise, I probably would have selected him a round or two before. And so to get him at the beginning of the 19th round, man, again, you mentioned it, depth wide receiver for you. I really like that pick. Okay, 1911 here for me. I'm with my last two picks. So I am looking at my roster here, and I've got some solid running back depth. I like the running backs that I've got in place. I don't think that I need to look that way, again, because it's super gross. I feel like, again, you said like wasting a pick.
Yeah.
I do feel like that would be the case here for me. But I talked about wanting to add another quarterback, and then I've got Keelan Cole here sitting and staring me in the face. Now, it would not be a Kyle Yates draft if I did not walk out of this draft without Jonnu Smith, Trey Lance, and Keelan Cole. So let's pull the trigger here. Keelan Cole at the end of the 19th round, and then let's look at the start of the 20th. I said that I wanted to double back and grab a veteran quarterback, a guy who was going to fall, was going to sit there. I knew that I could let Derek Carr, for example, he's sitting here right now, and I knew that he was going to still be here. Derek Carr, Jameis Winston is a potential, but there's too much volatility there. I just don't know what his situation is going to be. I know what Derek Carr is going to bring me. And as a solid QB2, QB3, right, that those hybrid players, right, like on my roster where I can just look at Trey Lance, I can look at Derek Carr. Derek Carr can be the stopgap until Lance gets up to speed, and then he could potentially be that QB1 for me down the road. So I'll take Derek Carr here to end out my draft and pair him with Russell Wilson and Trey Lance.
Yeah. And I like that. I like how you said this wouldn't be a Kyle Yates draft without Keelan Cole. And I'm here. This is my last pick. It's the second to last pick overall in this mock, and I was looking at Pat Freiermuth. I was also looking at Javion Hawkins to add another young running back to my core of four. But you know what? This would not be a Ray GQ draft without taking one of the best rookie quarterbacks in this draft. I'm bypassing Tom Brady. No thank you, Jared Goff. Taysom Hill, yuck. Jimmy Garoppolo, you're about to be replaced. You know where I'm going. Yates. Mac Jones here at the 2011. Sign me up. Boom, Mac Jones. Let's get it.
Yeah, he's worth a shot, man. It's really interesting. I mean, Zach Wilson is still sitting there on the board. Like he didn't get drafted in this mock draft. So still sitting there. But I like the pick there of Mac Jones at the end. Again, you gotta stay on brand. You gotta stay on brand there at the end of your draft. So all right, Ray, go ahead and run through your team. Let's see what you got here. Just run down your roster.
All right. So I've got Deshaun Watson, Jonathan Taylor, Cam Akers, Najee Harris, T. Higgins, Brandon Ayuk, Michael Gallup, T.J. Hawkinson. That's my starting roster. And then the flex positions: Robert Tonyan, Darnell Mooney. Benches: Rashad Penny, Justin Fields, Jalen Waddle, Van Jefferson, Tyler Johnson, Elijah Moore, Mac Jones, Deomi Brown, Dwayne Eskridge, Amari Rogers.
Looking at that roster, like hearing you run through it, Jalen Waddle, the value that you got him at was just fantastic. Like I hear that you've got Jalen Waddle sitting there on your bench, and I'm like, dang it. I should have taken him. That was fantastic value for where you got him. All right, let me run down my roster. I've got Russell Wilson at quarterback, Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones, and Joe Mixon as the starting running backs. Chris Godwin, Robert Woods, OBJ. And then Jonnu Smith at the tight end spot. And then my flex, Leonard Fournette, Michael Pittman Jr. And then my bench, Irv Smith Jr., Darius Slayton, Derek Carr, Gus Edwards, KJ Hamler, Anthony McFarland Jr., Nelson Aguilar, Trey Lance, LaMichael Pirine, and then Keelan Cole. How do you feel about your team, Ray? Do you feel like this is going to be a championship contender in year one, or
Absolutely
is it going to be a couple years down the road?
Absolutely not. I think this team would have some good boom weeks, but this is a roster where, I would really want it to be – it's not bad enough to finish last, but I would really want to finish towards the back half of my Dynasty League in order to secure higher picks in 2022, because I think in 2022 – if Higgins takes a step forward, Ayuk takes that step forward, Gallup's situation changes, Mooney takes a step forward, Waddle's got a season under his belt with these 3 young running backs, with Deshaun Watson on a new team. I think in 2022, I think I could have a very, very strong team. This was a productive struggle-like approach. I don't think I took a player. I think Deshaun Watson may be the oldest player that I drafted in this entire thing, him and Tanyan. So, nope, this is not a team to compete this season, but I absolutely love the core, and I think I have players to where I've got room to trade a Justin Fields. If he balls out year one and somebody's like, I need that Konami code quarterback, I've got Mac Jones still there. I have Deshaun Watson. I can trade Fields and get some value. So your roster would dominate mine in a head-to-head matchup this season, but this is how I like the Dynasty. I like youth, I like talent, and I really like this roster.
Yeah, man. Looking at my roster, like the starting roster, I feel like is super strong. Like I feel like that can hang with pretty much any roster across, my league or whatever. But then I get to the bench and I'm like, I don't really love this, right? And so I wish that looking at this, I wish that I would have gone back and prioritized rookies, like those incoming players that are coming at the discount now, like just to have some more exciting players, like Nelson Aguilar. Okay, he's fine, but he doesn't really like do much for me. Like Keelan Cole, yes, but yet he's also older. Darius Slayton, I'm not the biggest Darius Slayton fan, but where I got him was fine value. But just being able to look at my roster and say like, okay, I'm really excited because I have a Dwayne Eskridge on my roster. I have these incoming rookies that I'm big fans of that are going to set me up for years to come potentially. I wish I would have prioritized that a little bit more when we got to the bench spot specifically. So, but overall, I'm pretty happy with this roster. Again, we'll be putting these out on social media. We'll see. We'll let the people vote and see who they like. Let's be honest, yours is probably going to win because you're just the greatest on social media.
Oh my gosh, get out of here! Legitimately, your roster. I mean, your running back core: Chubb, Mixon. Who was your other running back that you got?
Aaron Jones.
I mean, dude, I was listening to it. Chris Godwin. I mean. I really like you said, I think your starting roster is lethal. And then you got players like Irv Smith, as your second tight end. Aaron, I mean, you got a really good team. I think the lesson that I learned, and I just want to say this, is single quarterback leagues are tricky because you don't want to let those guys fall too far, but then you also don't want to reach. I think Fields was a reach for me. I also think T.J. Hawkinson, I could have waited and gotten an Irv Smith as my tight end one, or Robert Tonyan much later. Those were the two big mistakes that I made, but what I absolutely loved was prioritizing running back because it got ugly like round 7. It was bad at the running back position.
Real bad.
You cannot play around in dynasty startups with your running backs. You can't.
Yeah, I love that I started the first 3 rounds with going running back because I knew that, again, and this was my first mock draft of the season. I wasn't lying about that. But to be able to soak up that, I knew that running back was going to dry up really quickly. So to be able to get those guys there, this was a super fun exercise, man. It was a ton of fun to be able to sit down again. I mentioned my first mock draft of the season. Happy to do that with you and, of course, with all the people here listening to the Fantasy Pros Dynasty Football Podcast. That's going to do it for today. Again, thank you so much to Reality Sports Online for sponsoring the show. Head over to realitysportsonline.com to learn more. Ray, you made it, man. Your voice stuck with us here. You made it through the episode. Now go crash, go rest up the voice, get some cough drops. You gonna be okay?
Yeah, man, I'll be good. Dynasty mock drafts and rookies make a lot of the pain go away, man.
There we go. All right, man. Well, hey, for Ray Garvin, I'm Kyle Yates, and we'll see you next time. Looking for useful content, fantasy relevant information, and the data that can help your team win? Then make sure to subscribe to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. And while you're at it, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Fantasy Pros so we can help you dominate your league all season long.